Fredrickson had been running for what felt like hours, long past the point he thought his body could hold. But every time he started to slow, the memory of the twisted and burnt wreck of a city he had once called home pushed him further. Eventually, he had to stop. The power of fear can only take a human body so far. His breath ragged and his muscles burning, he found a pile of rubble, the cast-offs of a previous battle, and sat, catching his breath, and sadly, also allowing his memories to fully catch up with him. The memories of his home, a city far in the depths of a vast desert, that he thought was safe from the wars in other lands. Beliefs that, like the city, were quickly crushed under powerful magics, and an army of bleeding blue-furred monsters that slaughtered all they saw. Those that were killed were the lucky ones. He remembered when he was in the main plaza, escaping with his fellow citizens, when they were all struck by a sickly purple wave of energy. He was thankfully on what seemed to be the outer edges of the wave, but his fellows felt its full effects. The wave washed over them, and he saw them transform. Where once they were friends and colleagues, now they were masses of screaming, ever-changing flesh. As the memories broke him, and he burst into tears, emotions clashed violently inside of him. Fear, anger, and excitement. That final emotion shook Fredrickson, for he knew it wasn't his own. Opening his eyes, he was horrified to see that his vision had changed, the world taking on an unnatural purple hue. And when he looked upon his flesh, he saw slowly thickening veins start to crawl across his skin like cracks forming in ice, turning his almost obsidian skin into a sickening azure. Where the veins crossed, thick fur sprouted in twisted, ragged clumps. As he panicked and went to scratch off the corruption, the surprising pain from the act gave him pause. His hands were also changing, his fingers elongating and gaining extra joints, and sprouting painfully through his fingertips were jagged claws, the flesh around them now bleeding purple blood. Fredrickson opened his mouth to scream, but instead echoed out the garbled call of a bird of prey. His shock was quickly overshadowed by pain as his teeth combined into two opposing masses of bone that quickly burst out of his mouth, ripping apart his lips and forming a sickly yellow beak. His forehead also began to leak a stream of blood, as horns began to slowly sprout, weighing down his still weak human neck. Fredrickson died a slow death of self as Tzeentch's blessing transformed him into a much more pleasing shape. Within his mind, he saw his memory discarded, replaced by a malevolent force that now called his former body home. Some time later, a lone Zangor walked into the ruin of a once great city. As it climbed over the rubble and the dead, it smelled its herd mates deeper within. It cawed in joy, for soon it would be with its horde, and bring great victories for the Lord of Change. The dark god Tzeentch is, to his disciples, the truest representation of chaos, an ever-twisting and turning force for change that, for those who choose to wield this power and serve this dark master, can be used to free oneself from the restrictions of order and gain the power to bend reality to your will. But this force isn't overt, for the ways of Tzeentch isn't a blunt fist of corn, but the stab of a well-timed dagger, or the downfall of a noble family with a well-orchestrated master stroke. It is plans upon plans and manipulations upon manipulations, and many are the mortals who take this philosophy to heart. Those mortals who wish to serve Tzeentch form Arcanite cults with agents hidden across the mortal realms, whether that be in the so-called free cities of Sigmar, under the very nose of the death god Nagash, or artfully manipulating the simple-minded children of Gorkamorka. Hidden as they are, they slowly corrupt from within, appearing as productive members of society, and slowly gaining in power, while simultaneously performing dark magical rituals in the city's underbelly, and planning the downfall of the civilization they supposedly serve. And when enough power and influence has been gathered, they are able to summon this scintillating host, the legions of Tzeentchian demons that serve the dark god's will, ever-varied and ever-changing hordes whose powerful magics and corruptive flames destroy the structure and stability of their enemies. To be a disciple of Tzeentch is to wield the greatest of magic and be the masters of manipulation. To spread the message of your ever-changing God and watch in joy as your dark plots come to violent fruition. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on the Disciples of Tzeentch. It's sort of a rework of one of my oldest videos on this channel that I decided to, after a couple of years, this might be a good time to update it a little bit. So hopefully you liked it. If you like it, please like, subscribe, comment, press the little bell so you know whenever I post, etc. And if you really like it and you're inclined, please consider giving a little money to my Patreon or my Ko-fi account. The extra money gives me the time I need to work on these stories I love. Anyway, thanks for listening, watching, and see you next time.